I remembered that conversation vividly, and I remembered your statement, and you were the first person that I reached out to with the opportunity of, hey, I've got 150 agents that are really excited for something new.
Yeah.
Do you want to do something really exciting together?
Welcome back to Realty Talk podcast. This is episode number 6. We are excited to discuss some history.
Yeah.
The topic is discussing the history of Innovate Realty.
Yes.
Before we dive into that, I feel like we should check in on overall market. We're Buy House is in the business of buying, fixing, and selling single family or light multifamily real estate, primarily focused in Southern California. So it's been a unique market for us. On the last episode, we talked about these quasi-micro markets, right? And, San Diego's still right around a month of inventory. The high desert or desert pockets of Southern California, Palm Springs, Riverside County, all very different. I mean, there are pockets of Palm Springs that have 3, 4, 5 months of inventory. The two primary locations where Buy House has inventory, Orange County and LA proper. And those are vastly different markets as well. So Orange County is moving very quickly.
Yeah.
It's not like 2021 where you're getting, 40 offers after one day on market and going for $200,000 over list. But, we're not having a major issue, selling inventory.
Inventory's moving, and it's fairly quickly. Yeah.
LA, though, seems a little different. And it depends on the pocket. I mean, one of the most confusing transactions that we've been in is in West Hollywood. Great city. This is a really cool kind of historical pocket of West Hollywood.
Yeah.
In the fix and flip business, the whole business operates around hitting your construction budget and hitting your timeline to make sure that you get inventory back on market. We did both of those things in this situation. And the property's just taken a little longer than we anticipated to move, which is kind of unique. But then there's other pockets of LA which are moving very quickly.
Right.
So it's kind of odd. What's your input on LA or Orange County and what we're seeing?
Yeah, I think you touched on it. It really is unique to each kind of sub pocket. That area specifically in West Hollywood, you can go a couple blocks down and you're in a completely different market. So it's really important. I think we learn this lesson all the time to make sure that when we are comping and looking at, what's selling, that we're getting as close to a similar property and, similar location as possible, because it's interesting to say the least. And I think, for in that one in West Hollywood in particular, it's a situation where we feel we're priced well, we're priced right. And the house is fantastic. The location is fantastic. But also we've had some situations where because it is right in the heart of everything, sometimes it's hard to get to, So there's there's parades, there's been events. So it's been interesting because, we're hosting open houses every weekend, and sometimes people can't actually get to the open house. So things you have to think about, as we are going through this process, and, those little things make a big difference.
Yeah, it's interesting to think through. I mean, I feel like we have to talk about it, even though maybe we don't want to. But we look at inflow and outflow of people, and when I catch up with people that live on the East Coast, friends or whatnot, they're always asking me like, "Is LA dead? Like, is LA going away? Nobody lives there. All we hear about is these homeless people or homeless encampments, and LA being a dumpster fire." I mean, and maybe it's not a popular opinion, but I mean, there are certain pockets, obviously, that are really negative.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the same way with every city. But my perspective is, most of the areas where we, transact, it still feels very safe.
Yeah.
It's very, that property, specifically in West Hollywood, is awesome.
Right.
I mean, our neighbors have lived there for 50, 60 years. Tree-lined, beautiful streets.
Yeah.
But what's your take on LA? I mean,
No, yeah. I mean, that's important to talk about because I do feel that if you're just looking at headlines, it gets a little intimidating. I mean, even when people are talking about, I mean, even my own parents, when my dad was coming out here, we actually went to the Tool concert in LA.
all right.
Yeah, he was super excited. It was his.
Wait, was he the fan or you're the fan or both?
He's the fan.
Okay.
He's like the super fan. I'm a fan too, but he's next level fan. Knows everything about the band. But so we were going to the crypto arena, and he was intimidated. And when we got down there, it was actually Valentine's Day, so we had like a nice little dinner right there in the area, and then walked over to the stadium, went in, and he made the comment. He said, wow, I expected this to be a lot worse with the way that everyone talks about LA. So I think it definitely has something to do with it, where you're not necessarily getting some of these out of state or out of town buyers that you may have seen in the past, where LA kind of used to be the dream, right? Like dream of moving to LA, and now it does kind of have a negative connotation to it.
Yeah, it feels like to me, California as a whole makes it difficult to run a business. So you do see some of these larger businesses, going to Texas or wherever. But the industry as a whole, like the industry, is still here. It's going to be here for a long time and be here forever. And so, we've read different reports, but I hear that the number of people leaving, it's equal to, if not greater than, people coming.
Right.
And we've outside of a couple of weird transactions in pockets that maybe we just shouldn't have, done deals in, we've never felt like there's a lack of buyers. You might have lack of interest at a price point,
right?
But that's very different than lack of buyers as a whole.
I agree.
And so that's a data point. If you're listening on the East Coast or in the Midwest, I think LA's still alive.
Yeah.
I'm not an original, Californian at heart. I grew up in Utah. I don't have a ton of pride related to any of that, but just a data point from our perspective, it does feel like, it's kind of still moving.
Yeah. I think, the takeaway is just like you said in the beginning. I mean, there's always going to be in each area, there might be, some a little bit of a situation in each state or city. There's always something going on, but as a whole, you can't lump LA, which is such a huge county as well. You really can't put it in that box.
So, I mean, LA is, if you look at it from, just population and GDP, it would be I think the 11th largest economy in the world, that little subsector, right? And I mean, a lot of people, I've had a few different businesses. I'm a serial entrepreneur and, either winning or failing, had both. But I have all these friends asking me, like, why are you in California still? It's crazy. And my perspective is that there's nowhere else on the planet where you can access that number of homeowners and people within an hour and a half. And so while, yes, it is difficult to operate, or, employees get paid a little more or whatever, there's a lot of tailwind in the fact that if your product or service is really great, there's a shitload of people to go and take it to. And so, I definitely feel that. But wait, I have a question then. So being a Tool fan, he's like, the lead singer lives in like Sedona. And
he does,
makes wine?
He does. He has, I don't know if that's his primary, because he's in multiple bands too.
Right.
Like he performs in A Perfect Circle, which that was more of my favorite.
You were like a rock star. You were like a rocker.
Oh man, in my younger years,
Really?
Yeah, I was into it. But
Did you like black makeup and like rock shirts?
I never went that far with it, and I don't know.
Okay.
We didn't go that deep, but I was passionate about my music. But so he has a farm, and he's really into that. So it's outside of Sedona. I think it's like Cottonwood or something like that in Arizona. And recently moved to a new location and has the farm and the wine, and you take something. You have to actually take a little cart up to the property.
Oh, like a gondola kind of thing? Like a ski lift almost?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So
Have you had the wine?
I have had the wine.
Is it good?
It's pretty good. You
Well,
I'm a wine
you don't
person.
have to just say that on the
No,
episode.
no, it is pretty good. It's I am into wine. It's not my style of wine. I feel making wine there would be very difficult and probably wouldn't be the wine that I would just grab as an easy drinker. I'm also a vegetarian, so like a bold wine, it doesn't go with a lot for me. But and I would say it was a little bolder for my taste. But I think you need to try it and report back.
All right. Next episode, we're opening a bottle of his wine. What is his name?
Maynard.
Maynard. That's right. Okay. What is the wine called?
Oh, I don't remember.
All right, we'll find that out.
We'll find it.
Yeah, we'll bring a bottle of wine. Steve will be excited next time. He's not with us today, but
if we
we'll
bring
have a glass of wine,
he'll be here for sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Perfect. The next subject has been requested, which is unique. So we've had people questioning the way that Innovate was launched.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we touched on it briefly, but the full story has not been released. So
Yeah.
I think it's it's probably a few of these because it is kind of a story and there are phases to it.
Yeah.
But
And I think everyone probably has a slightly different perception based on where they were sitting. Maybe I can start.
yeah, do it. Yeah.
So, Innovate, well, I guess the data points, right? Innovate was launched in May of 2023.
Right.
And so in 2021, the real estate market's crazy. Buy house, from our perspective, we are an iBuyer, kind of. We're competing with iBuyers, right? So at that point in time, we were advertising on TV and radio. People were coming to us to get a cash offer. These are distressed people, right? These are houses that, technically would not be lendable. What we mean by that, if you're not understanding that lingo, is that, if this person wanted to go and sell their house on the market, Wells Fargo or Chase would not issue a mortgage on it because it's so dilapidated, right? So we're buying conditionally very distressed houses. These people are coming to us with a cash offer because they either tried to sell it on market and couldn't get it done, or have some sort of immediate need, right? And at the time, we were competing against Redfin and Opendoor and OfferPad and Zillow. And, early days, Buy House, it was not a lot of people. So, we were running TV ads and, I felt like it was really important that I understood the general mechanics of the business. So I went and ran every lead for like the first year or two.
Wow.
So I was in these houses, walking through, talking to these sellers, saying, okay, how much do you think it's worth? And, it's a kind of a song and dance to a certain degree because it's like, well, no, it's not worth that because here are all the things that need to be fixed to make it worth something. And, that in and of itself is another story.
Yeah.
But damn, I was so confused in 2021. I would go into these houses and I'm like, it's worth $400,000.
Right.
And Zillow would be like $850. And, I'm like, how in the fuck is Zillow or Redfin or OfferPad, how are they paying this amount of money for these houses?
Yeah.
And, honestly, it was really frustrating. We spent like 6 months questioning, like, maybe we're just wrong, maybe we're in the wrong business.
Yeah.
Like, we're looking at ourselves in the mirror going like, oh my gosh, this doesn't make any sense.
How are we this far off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, full disclosure, we decide to secret shop some of our competitors. And so what I mean by that is I had a house or townhome in Huntington Beach. And I thought, hey, I'll plug my house in.
Yeah.
And I'm going to see what these competitors would offer for my house.
Right.
And I want to understand their process and how they're thinking about it. And so that is the start, right? So I submit the information. I get a call from this agent. We'll name him Agent F. And he's an awesome guy, right? So I connect with him. And I'm starting to feel guilty at this point because I'm like, I know I'm not going to sell you my house. Even if your number is a crazy good number, I'm not selling this to you.
Yeah.
And I kind of get to this like place where I feel bad for the guy. And, we get the offer, and I'm like, it makes no sense. I don't understand how they're going to make any money doing this. And I have to come clean to it. I'm like, hey, man, I'm in the business of buying, fixing, and selling houses. I feel really bad that I wasted your time. So I'm going to give you a listing. And I'll
Very nice of you. Just, by the way.
Yeah, we give him this next listing in Orange County, and he crushed it. He did amazing. Like, at the time in our business, we weren't attached to any brokerage. Mm-hmm. And so we were just trying to find the agent that was maybe doing the most volume in that specific pocket to sell our inventory. But he was just really diligent. Agent F is a champion.
Yeah.
And we ended up selling, 50 or 60 houses with Agent F. And that's, I'll turn it over to you from that point, because that all gets intertwined.
Yeah. Well, I think what's interesting is, that I heard about this interaction, right? Because
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was not Agent F, right?
Right,
so
right. Yeah.
I owned the brokerage, co-owned the brokerage that we were at currently, and where Agent F was, and we were facilitating a lot of those cash offers for Zillow.
Right.
So
and other iBuyers.
Yeah, definitely. And so we were thinking the same thing, by the way, about all of these offers. Like, why are you offering
you were thinking
these numbers?
Like, that's a big number.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, we raised our hands and we were like, as real estate agents, we would like to tell you that you are offering an insanely high number.
That you are wrong.
Yes. So it was interesting because I heard about the interaction and I heard about you guys at Buy Buy House, and but the kind of the relationship between you and the agent just evolved, and you guys kept doing business together. And then we kind of hit a crossroads in the business where I was kind of going one direction with the brokerage, and my partner at the time was maybe going in another direction. And so that's when we started to have deeper conversations. So I guess the first thing before we got to there, Agent F had mentioned that you guys were generating leads. And again, your goal was not to necessarily convert that lead for anything else but a cash offer.
Just to buy the house.
Yeah. So Agent F brought the idea forward that maybe we could start helping with monetizing some of those other opportunities. Because of the fact that you're paying for these ads regardless. And I mean, what is the percentage that something like that was converting at the time to a cash offer? It was
crazy low. Like, depending on the vertical, we did TV, radio, some other direct response verticals. But I mean, we had great months where 6, 7, 8%. I think we had a couple months double digits, 10, 12%. But then, we had months during an election year where we were running TV ads, but nobody was paying attention because they were all freaked out about who was going to be our next president. And, we would have, less than 1% conversion to an actual cash transaction that we were able to purchase. So,
and that's kind of that's the game, right?
Yeah,
but we saw an opportunity where, hey, maybe we could come in and help with some of the other leads that just didn't make sense necessarily for Buy Buy, but could make sense for a real estate agent. So Agent F sets up a meeting. We all get together, and that was the first time I met Paul.
Yeah.
And
I remember that meeting vividly.
Oh,
I remember
me too.
walking in there going, this makes a lot of sense. We have all these leads. If we're not able to monetize it through a cash transaction, we should, it's like exhaust. We try to figure out how to monetize that exhaust and get listings, or have agents follow up in the future and maybe turn it into a cash transaction.
Right.
So I remember being very receptive. And I think we actually did a deal. Like we negotiated and inked a deal where it was like, hey, if you bring a listing or if we bring you a listing, and there were all these different types of transactions and rev share. And
no, I mean, I think overall it made a lot of sense for both of us. What I remember vividly from that meeting, though, was you saying, this whole thing makes a lot of sense to me. I told myself either I need to go open up a brokerage or I need to partner with someone like your brokerage to make this work because, I'm kind of thinking the same thing. And that is what gave me the light bulb a few months later when, I started moving in another direction and, I thought about a change for the agents. I remembered that conversation vividly and I remembered your statement and you were the first person that I reached out to with the opportunity of, hey, I've got 150 agents that are really excited for something new.
Yeah.
Do you want to do something really exciting together?
Yeah, it's interesting too because the timing was very serendipitous. We were at a time in Bye-Bye's business cycle where, there were months where we were spending $150,000 plus in advertising to bring those customers in, or those leads in. And, there were periods where it was great. And then there were times where it was like, oh, this is really difficult to do and then operate the business. Because it is like buying, fixing, and renovating real estate is an incredibly cash intensive operation. And it is an incredibly difficult thing to do at scale.
I agree.
There are a bunch of agents or people out there that might be able to go do one.
Yeah.
But doing like 30 at a time, or even 2, 3, 4, 5 at a time, it gets really expensive very quickly and it gets very, very complicated. And if you don't manage all that properly, then you carry the asset longer and it erodes all your profit.
Right.
And so on top of all those things, also spending dollars to get new customers coming in, at that level was difficult every month. And so it was really interesting when we started to have that conversation. Initially I thought, hey, this is going to be just a great lead vertical.
Yeah.
Even if we partner together in this brokerage and we never make any money in the brokerage and we just get leads for Bye-Bye houses, it's going to be great. I think I said that.
Yeah.
But, it's turned into something so much broader than that. And, we'll talk more about the business model, in future episodes. But, it's just such the business, the brokerage business as a whole, and, agent representation with buyers and sellers as a whole, there's so much room for opportunity to really show where your value is. And I think the platform that we're in the process of building is pretty unique and very different from the way that almost like it's innovative.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. And I think that that's why we work really well together because we had that same vision. That was, I think there are so many brokerages out there. There are mom and pop shops. There's the big box brokerages. But, not a lot of people are sitting down and thinking about what do we see coming in the future?
Yeah.
And how do we focus on that and solve for the problems ahead? And I think, you and I both felt that was really important to us. And I think that, we have a little bit of a leg up because some of these places have been in business for a really long time. We were able to sit down and start fresh and say, okay, what worked at the previous brokerage? What could we improve on? And we developed and put together some awesome programs around that to alleviate the pain points in the market and the industry as a whole.
Yeah. Yeah. My next statement is incredibly biased, but, I think what got, Steve and I really, really excited about the partnership and working at Innovate together was your personal commitment to the agents. So when we were talking about, potentially building this thing, there was never, I don't think we ever heard you say I, right? It was always, well, like, how does that work for the agents? Or how do we tweak this? And how do we protect the agent? Or how do we create opportunities for the agent? So compliments to you on just where your intentions are. Because I remember that, in the very beginning, even before we discussed Innovate, that was very relevant and very clear. And it's a really great lesson, because ultimately at the end of the day, people only succeed when they're creating value.
Right.
And in the brokerage business, you're creating value for two types of customers, your internal customers
Yeah.
and your external customers. Our internal customers are, the employees that help run the operation and then the agents. And if you're not creating value for them, like some of the big boxes, right? It's just kind of a name.
Right.
Then you're going to lose. You're going to see the attrition that some of those brokerages are seeing.
Yeah.
And then obviously if you're not taking care of your external customers because you're not happy in your current brokerage, then you're probably dying, right? Like you're that agent today that looks at this NAR ruling and goes, oh, I guess I better find another job, right?
Yeah.
Versus, hey, glass is half full.
Exactly.
But yeah, huge compliments to you because that was
you.
always that's always been your intention. And
yeah, I think it all comes around. So I appreciate you saying that. It's all came around, and I think that's why we have the agent count that we do in 1 year. Because it does all come full circle in the end, and I find a lot of value to myself. Providing those opportunities to others as well. So I think, as long as the agents are feeling that and everyone is feeling that, we're doing something right. And I felt something very similar with you right away, which is why I knew that, we could make something really great together because, you lead in a similar fashion as well. So,
looking back though, what we should have done is timed it a little better. Inventory has not been easy.
Yeah, if only. But I think on the bright side, where if you go through the hardest part, it can only get better. We're really prepared for everything. So
yeah, all joking aside, I mean, what Innovate has done in the course of a year is crazy. I mean, agent count north of 150. Certain micro pockets, we have 30+% share of the inventory that's listed. So, definitely some really cool stuff happening. If you're an agent in Southern California, I will say it, you don't have to say it. If you're an agent in Southern California, if I were in your shoes, I would contact someone at Innovate and, ask how you get a job.
Yeah,
ask how you join the team. So there's probably more to unravel about Innovate and the launch and everything. But it is crazy. One other thought point. In 2 episodes ago, we were talking about Steve's house that he purchased.
Oh, yeah.
With that agent that happened to be at Innovate.
Yeah.
That was Agent F.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Secret shopped. What a small world.
Agent F is everywhere.
Yeah, he's doing business, clearly. Making things happen.
That's it for the episode?
That's it.
All right. If you are listening and not subscribed, please subscribe. And we still have not done our transaction in El Paso, Texas.
Still waiting.
We've heard lots of information. We just haven't gotten that deal done. In all seriousness, share the podcast with friends, family members. We're just excited to talk about anything real estate focused. If you have anything that you'd like for us to share or any questions, please submit those. But we will see you on the next episode.
See ya.